Hello, everyone. Welcome to Casey's Corner. I am your host, Casey Kendall. Joining me today, Dr. Bobbie Bennett from Body Wise Chiropractic in Tempe, Arizona. Thank you for being here, Dr. Bobbie.
Thanks for having me.
So we're going to jump right in, but first I'm going to plug the book, Commercial Insurance Simplified. You can find that on Amazon. I'll leave the link in the description. Let's get right to it, Dr. Bobbie. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, this is fantastic.
So,
the opportunity.
Absolutely. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey in the chiropractic world, and what you're doing now.
Yeah, so I've been a chiropractor for 20 years and really got into it personally because I was a patient myself. I was a runner in high school, started to have some back problems, and unfortunately going the kind of sports medicine route, it wasn't working. Their answer was just stop running. And as a 15-year-old, that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I started seeing a chiropractor and it changed everything and really worked for me. And I thought, wow, like more people need to know about this as an option. Because back when I was a little bit younger, it wasn't as, it really wasn't like suggested for kids as much.
Sure.
And now things have shifted and changed so much since then. But you know, it made such an impact on my life. So that really is what drew me into the field.
I'd like to get more into the body and how everything is connected, but first tell us a little bit about Body Wise Chiropractic.
Yeah. So, at my first few years out of school, I was living in Minneapolis and I moved out to the East Coast and got a job working at, a larger practice, shared some space with other doctors, some PTs. It was a great learning experience, but ultimately I really wanted to move to Arizona. And I moved here and decided to start Body Wise Chiropractic 2 years later. So 18 years ago, I moved here to Arizona and dove right in and, really was attracted to Tempe because it's a younger community. I really wanted to work with athletes, work with younger families, and things have obviously evolved with my practice over the years where I work with all different types of patients. But Tempe really kind of attracted me and I've really enjoyed my time there. So it's been a great community to work in. And I've moved locations a few times as my business grew and found my home where I am right now, which has been fantastic, where I share space with massage therapy. I've got phlebotomists that share from me, some stretch therapy. We all have very like-minded types of businesses and we all coexist in the same space, which has been really nice.
That's amazing. You laid out what you're doing. What makes you different than maybe, I hate to use the word traditional chiropractor, but what separates you from, I don't know, the strip mall chiropractor?
Right. Yeah. So there's so much variance within the field of chiropractic. So for anybody who's experienced it, there's hands-on types of treatments. There are, some offices that use more tools and things like that. So personally for me, I practice the way that I prefer to be adjusted, which is hands-on manual therapy, which is really how chiropractic started, right? So I decided early on I really wanted to incorporate soft tissue therapies and with my adjustments. And so that's always been a part of what I do. I went and got my full body active release technique training done immediately when I first started my business. And that really set me apart from everyone because when you came into my office, you weren't just getting an adjustment. You were actually getting some soft tissue work that was really specific for your needs. And that's kind of evolved with adding in, stretching and adding in, like acupuncture and dry needling over the years. So I really look at things, with my patients as individualized, right? You're not coming in and laying on a table for 2 minutes and walking right back out of my office. I get to know you. I get to know your family. I have patients who have been patients of mine for 18 years and they still come in, and so I have a lot of patients that'll come in, they treat, they feel better, they say, come back and see me when you need to. And that's really worked well for me over the years, that low pressure, just not making people feel like they have to come and do things. That's something I've heard, from someone. Well, once you go see a chiropractor, you have to keep going. But in my office, you come and go as you need to.
Yeah. I've visited some chiropractors where they want to put you on like a plan, like where, hey, you got to be here. Like maybe not necessarily every week, but like a once a month, and that might be more of a sales thing to get someone into the door. But I really like the approach of this isn't a factory that we're working on your body, right. Understanding your individual needs.
Yeah, exactly.
What's been the most rewarding part of being a chiropractor?
Gosh, so many moments. I think one of the coolest things that happened to me is the first office that I worked in. I ended up in a role that I was replacing a chiropractor that did a lot of prenatal care. And I didn't know a lot about prenatal care at the time. We learned a little bit in school, but I decided, wow, I need to learn more about this. And being the lifelong learner that I am, I, looked for classes. How can I learn more? And I found a really great training program that allowed me not only to learn more about prenatal care and how to take care of women through the entire stage of pregnancy, but it also taught me a lot about pediatric care. And so it's a very rewarding population to work with, because a pregnant woman that has sciatica doesn't have a lot of options, right? And so to be able to help these moms get through their pregnancy feeling better, a lot of times they're chasing after toddlers, helping them with their sleep, helping them to just feel supported during that process has been really rewarding for me.
I can remember when my wife was pregnant with both of our sons, where at some point she just couldn't find even a comfortable way to lay down. And just that added, I mean, there's stress involved, that mental portion of it, and everything in between. That's amazing. For someone who's never visited a chiropractor, what exactly should they expect?
Okay, so in my office, when you come in as a new patient, I have you fill out all the information that gives me a glimpse into your history. Where have you been? What has your body been through? What surgeries have you had? Have you had experience with chiropractic? Have you done physical therapy? Have you tried massage therapy? What's worked? What hasn't worked? And then we sit down, we discuss it, and I find out exactly where you're at, because that gives me a better idea of my launching point. Like, how am I going to best help you? Because at the end of the day, it's your visit, and I want to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to have you walking out of the door feeling better than you walked in. So going through that history process, finding out where you've been. And then also, for a lot of people, maybe they moved here and they've done chiropractic care and they loved it and they were just looking for someone locally now. And so I asked, what's worked for you? I want to know what your chiropractor did that helped you, because I want to see if I can pick up where they left off. So being able to open up and just really meet them where they're at and say, like, what can I do to best help you, has really served me the best.
There's a lot of misconceptions about chiropractic work. And I know I've visited some, and I feel like I'm in an Arnold Schwarzenegger, death grip. What are some misconceptions about chiropractic?
Well, number one, a lot of people, probably the biggest fear that I'll hear if someone's a little nervous is getting their neck adjusted, right? Like, I'm kind of nervous about the neck, and and that's perfectly normal, right? Because if you're not sure what the process is going to be like, it is a little scary. A lot of things are. So that's where education comes in, right? And me explaining exactly what I'm going to do and going step by step. Here's how I'm going to do this. But if someone says, "Hey, I'm coming in for low back pain, the neck makes me nervous," I'm like, you know what? Let's just leave it off the table for right now. Let's focus on what you're here for. Let's make your low back feel better. You tell me when you're ready to have me check out your neck if that makes you more comfortable. And I have people who take me up on that. And then maybe a few visits in, they're like, you know what? I had a headache the other day. You mentioned that might help. So let's check out my neck today too. Yeah. And so, making sure that they're educated is the most important. I've had patients in who've been to a chiropractor who didn't explain what they were going to do, and it caught them very off guard, and it can be a little frightening. So, and I think going through all my pediatric training really helped me, because I learned how to explain things to a child, right? Here's what I'm going to do. Here's where I'm going to put my hands. Is that okay? Asking permission. And so being able to really make sure that a 4-year-old understands what I'm going to do makes it a lot easier to make sure that a 40-year-old knows what I'm going to do.
That's how my wife talks to me. Let me explain this to you like a kindergartner.
Exactly.
And then I get it.
And then you get it. It's easy, right?
Should someone only see a chiropractor if they're in pain?
Oh, you know what? A lot of people think that, right? A lot of people think, oh, only if I was like in an accident would I go to a chiropractor, or only if I, pulled my back lifting weights, or, bending over to put on my shoes. But in reality, chiropractic is great for everybody preventatively, especially kids. These athletes. I just had one in yesterday who really didn't have anything going on, but he plays baseball, and his mom was like, hey, you know what? I think it's good to get you checked out. Let's just make sure that things are moving properly. And the idea is that if your spine is moving properly, if things are balanced within the musculature, maybe I show you a few stretches. There's some things that you can do at home to work on that. Now you're going to go out there and do whatever that activity is, whether it's, athletics, whether it's, a manual job that you're lifting heavy things. Or maybe it's just, someone who sits all day in front of a computer and they need to learn how to get up and move their body in between, because sitting is really hard on our bodies. And so if you can prevent some of those restrictions, now we go into our day and we can go about all those activities without getting injured. And that's where the beauty of chiropractic really comes in.
You mentioned spinal health. What does the spine play in the overall health of someone's body?
Sure, yeah. So your spine is actually the bony segments that protect your spinal cord, right? And your spinal cord is your brain, and then basically all the inner workings for your entire body. So think of, if you're a gardener and you've got a garden hose and it's going out to water your plants, but it's got a kink in it, it's not going to water your plants, right? Maybe you get a trickle, so it's, kind of working, but it's not ideal. It's not optimal. And that's how our body works. If you've got a restriction somewhere where that spine, maybe there's a little bit of a rotation, maybe you've got a posture alteration because you sit all day and you get that kind of rounded upper back and things are just kind of restricted. Well, now the nerves may have pressure being placed on them, and now they're not going to function at as high of a level. And so if we can make sure that the spine itself is moving properly and also working on that posture, so important. Now that neurological system is free to be able to serve your entire body as it needs to.
What conditions are you commonly seeing, or that you're helping your patients manage? What might be kind of the most common thing that you see on a day-to-day interaction?
I would say, probably like neck pain and lower back pain are kind of equal players there. But everything from headaches to TMJ, shoulder pain, knee pain. If it's a joint, I can work on it, right? So we don't just work on the spine. I work on a lot of feet, runners, who maybe plantar fasciitis or just some restrictions in the feet, because that's the foundation of your spine. And if you don't have the right footwear on, I talk about here's a proper shoe, here's something that you can wear, and make recommendations for a better shoe depending on what my patients come in wearing. Say, hey, have you thought about something with a wider toe box? Give your feet a little bit more room to breathe, so now your foundation is stronger. So, anything that needs to move, any joint that needs to move, can be worked on. But I would say neck pain and lower back pain are probably the two most common that I see.
Great. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to hear from our sponsor, Prosperity North Advisors. But when we come back, I'd like to talk about some preventative wellness, as well as like some patient success stories. And then we'll do like a rapid fire. And then maybe if we have time, we'll talk about some myths.
Perfect.
Prosperity North, take it away.
Commercial insurance can be complicated, and most business owners don't realize they're exposed until something goes wrong. At Prosperity North Advisors, we work with all types of businesses: startups, established companies, sole proprietors, and teams from 5 to 100 employees. No matter the size or stage of your business, we can handle it. We specialize in assisted living, pest control, and service-based businesses. We know exactly how to handle your risk. Fleet of vehicles, we can help. Work comp challenges, we got you. State or vendor compliance, same day turnaround on your documents, guaranteed. And in most cases, we're helping clients save 15 to 20% while actually improving their coverage. So if you're not 100% confident in your business insurance, it's probably worth a conversation. Prosperity North Advisors. Our mission is to protect your prosperity.
All right, and we are back. Thank you, Prosperity North Advisors, for all your commercial insurance needs. Go ahead and check them out. So again, we are back with Dr. Bobbie Bennett from Body Wise Chiropractic in Tempe, Arizona. Dr. Bobbie, let's get into wellness, prevention, lifestyle. What are some things that people can do every day to just help improve their spinal health?
Okay. Yeah. So I like to talk a lot about nutrition, what goes into your body, in addition to, the physical part, which is, the hands-on portion of chiropractic. So some really simple things that patients can do. Number one, starting your day with a giant glass of water. We wake up dehydrated. Dehydrated tissue doesn't move as well as hydrated tissue. An analogy I like to share is beef jerky and a fillet. Which one's gonna have more pliability, right? So if your body's dehydrated,
Wow.
think, hey, my muscles are more like jerky today. If you're hydrated, you've got that mobility, and that's key for movement, right? Because if you don't have that hydration, it makes us more stiff. So water is the easiest, right? Because it's readily available. It's just starting early enough so that you're not playing catch up later in the day, right? And in Arizona, obviously, it's even more important than places where there's more hydration in the air. So that's the easiest. The second one is just moving your body a little bit. So many people think, well, I don't have time to exercise. I'm chained to my desk. I'd like to go exercise, but I don't have time. Okay, well, where can you fit 5 minutes in, right? Where can you take a little bit of a break, walk around the block, or, get up and get your drink of water and do a couple of really quick stretches, So for someone, for example, who comes in with lower back pain that seems, kind of chronic, it comes back, it feels better when they get treated, but then it tends to kind of creep back. Okay, well, what are you doing all day? Well, unfortunately, I'm sitting at my desk. Great. Here's a couple stretches that you can do. Can you take 2 minutes and stand up to read an email on your screen, or take that little bit of a break and do a couple of stretches to help to move your body and then go back to work, because your productivity is probably going to go up if you do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I would say that's another really big one, is just getting the little movements in versus thinking, well, I have to get this 30-minute workout in and then doing nothing at all.
Let's talk about posture. How does posture, I can remember my dad saying, hey, hold your shoulders back, stand up straight. Tell me about posture and the overall effect on the body for that, especially if someone's sitting a lot.
For sure, yeah. So a couple of things that I commonly see, they're called upper cross syndrome and lower cross syndrome, and they sound a lot scarier than they are. But basically what these are, it's an imbalance within some of the muscular parts of your body that create poor posture. So for upper cross syndrome, you're tight in your pecs because you're rounded forward typing at a computer all day, right? You're tight across your upper back because your chin's coming forward staring at a screen. So now you've got weakness here. And then the middle of your back between your shoulder blades, now that's not strong enough to keep your shoulder blades back. So now suddenly this posture becomes so much more comfortable than this one, because you don't have the strength to maintain it, and you've got the tension that's pulling you away from it. So these are things that I work with in giving simple exercises for patients. And then, with your lower back, it's those hip flexors, right? You sit all day, you have tight hip flexors. Most people have probably been told that at some point in their life, if they've got low back pain. So it's stretching those, but it's also strengthening the opposing area that's really going to allow you to maintain this for the long term, right? Because as much as I love having my patients come in, my goal is to see them as least as possible. I want you to feel better and only come in when you need to, or preventatively is even better, right? Yeah, I'm not in pain. I just want to stay that way. The best.
I'm probably beyond middle age, but let's say close to 50-year-old male, and I've got 2 buddies, and all 3 of us have had a lot of problems with our feet. Mm-hmm. And we all sit at an office all day, but I've literally found where if I'm sitting in my desk chair a certain way, it's almost like my feet are cut off and there's no flow to it. And then I've had to stretch out my feet. I've had heel issues, and then like the planters issue, and that can be debilitating.
It can be, absolutely. And that's something usually that it kind of over time develops, right? It's not one of those things that you just suddenly wake up with it. Mm-hmm. It's the lack of mobility. Again, it's, like down here, a lot of people walk barefoot on tile, really hard on your feet, right? So maybe I'll suggest to a patient, let's get you some house shoes. Go get a pair of soccer slides and just slip them on when you take your shoes off when you get home. And now your feet have a little bit of support from that hard tile, right? But yeah, you mentioned the circulation piece. When your body's not moving, it does affect your circulation. And so that, again, comes into play where if you can at least stand up once an hour, and stretch out a little bit, maybe march in place, something just to get your body moving. Because, yeah, when you're sitting for a long period of time, you're just not going to have that circulation in your feet. And then you get up and it's kind of hard to walk the first few steps. And then usually once you get going, it's not so bad, right? But if you can kind of take those little breaks, you can prevent it from tightening up.
Yeah. What are some warning signs people might ignore? that could turn into a potential issue?
Well, our body's really smart, and it likes to warn us when we're about to maybe, people will say, oh, I threw my back out. Well, what exactly does that mean? Usually when someone says they threw their back out, everything just kind of seizes up and they can't bend over anymore, right? They get kind of frozen in place. But usually before something like that happens, your body starts to give you little warning signs, like a little twinge here and there. Like, oh, I bent over to put my shoes on. I felt this little twinge, but I ignored it. I'm all right. I walked it off. But our body is saying, hey, something's just not right here. So like it is, if the muscles spasm like that, it's our body's way of trying to protect ourselves. And so listening to those warning signs or feeling that tightness, man, like the last few months, every morning when I get up, my back is just tighter. Well, is it because something changed? Am I just sitting more? Is my bed not supporting me properly? But if we don't listen to some of those cues, that's where suddenly you bend over to pick up a pencil and your entire back goes into spasms. I didn't even do anything. Well, it was what led up to that that caused the actual issue. And so really being mindful and recognizing, hey, I don't feel like my body's moving like it used to. Maybe I need to go get a massage. Maybe I should go, try to hit up the gym and use one of those stretching machines every once in a while, something like that, where it's like, listening to your body can be very, very important.
I had a conversation with my body once. I was getting ready for an event in which I was going to be speaking in front of quite a few people. And I tied my shoe and I stood up and I immediately fell back on the bed. And it was actually a hip pelvis related issue. And I had a conversation with my body that said, can you please just get me through the next 2 hours and then we'll deal with it. But looking back on that situation, there were some specific things that led to it. I was having my feet were giving me an issue, so I wasn't stretching those out. So I was compensating for another part, and then my back and hip was like, nah, we're done. Yeah. We're checking out, boss. Yeah. And I got through it, and then the next day I played golf, and I ended up at a chiropractic office, and got through it. But it seems to all start in that core area.
Mm-hmm. Very common. And you mentioned compensation, and it's a really common reason for some of these ailments. Like maybe you had a sprained ankle and it healed, but you walked a little bit different for a while. Or maybe you were in a boot because you had a fracture, or a knee surgery where you didn't have full range of motion. Even though you were going to PT and working on it, you were still moving around during that time, and not having that full range of motion of one joint, your body has to make up for it somewhere else. And so those compensatory patterns are very real, and I see it all the time.
What type of preventative care can a chiropractor provide?
So in my office, a combination of making sure that things are moving properly, so doing those manual adjustments, but also, I'll test out some of the ranges of motion and like, hey, you know what? I think maybe adding in a few stretches here would be really good. I have a bunch of different tools that I like to demo with. And I show patients how to use, like, easy tools you can get on Amazon. Here's a little foam ball. Like, one of my favorite things, it's this little 6-inch foam ball. And you can use it to work on your shoulder range of motion, for your hip flexors, for, like your hip rotators. And I show my patients, here's how you use this. They get down on the mat, they try it. And then I'm like, hey, you know what? We're going to text you a link to this right on Amazon. Just pick it up, have it, in your gym bag, have it in your office, put it next to your TV. If you're watching television, hop down on the ground and do this. I'll offer patients, hey, do you want me to videotape you doing this so that you have with your own phone, so now you can look back on it? Or do you want to take a video of me doing this? So they have that to take home, be like, okay, now I can actually remember how to do this, because you showed me in the office and it looked great and it felt great, but then I got home and I completely forgot.
Yeah.
So those types of things are really important for me, because I like to make sure my patients have the tools to be able to kind of self-treat. And then, like I said, they come in and see me as they need to. But that way, what if you, get hurt on a Saturday evening? I want you to have a tool to be able to, you know what, I remember Dr. Bobbie said, get this little ball, get on the ground and roll around on it. And maybe you get enough relief to get you through to the week.
Yeah. I think one of the things that really gets me is I like to do a lot of projects around the house. I find myself either painting or shoveling something at any given weekend. But I will end up sore but I think that I could probably prevent that with some pre-stretching before even just doing minimal physical labor.
Yeah, and even stretching afterwards is fantastic. And then something else that I'll suggest, because most people nutritionally need a few things too. So, like, hey, you know what? Grab some magnesium. Take that before you go to bed tonight. Works as a natural muscle relaxant. Maybe if you feel like the muscles are a little tight, maybe that's all your body needs to kind of recover. Or, grab some Epsom salts. Either go in the bath, or if you're not a bath person, soak your feet. You'll still get it into your system. So things like that, and having those tools to use can be really helpful for those house projects too.
Why does somebody, and I'll use myself as an example, I would say probably once a year since adulthood, I have woken up after a regular night of sleep and all of a sudden I can't even move my head. Is that the way I'm sleeping? What is a typical symptom of that?
Sure.
To where you're just waking up and you can't move.
Yeah. So, it can be maybe the pillow wasn't supporting you properly. A lot of times if someone, was really exhausted and just slept really hard, maybe you're not in the best position, but you're sleeping so well that your body doesn't wake you up to tell you, hey, you need to shift the pillow a little bit. Your neck doesn't have support. So I'll see that after like a really solid night's sleep sometimes too. But maybe it was something you did the day before and you didn't really realize it. You stared at a screen all day and maybe you haven't had your eyes checked recently. And so you're doing this thing, right? And you're straining to see, and that anterior head position causes all of these muscles back here to hold your head up. So you get through the day and you go to try to lay down. Now you don't have proper support. And the muscles are just going to stay on all night. You're going to wake up and you're going to be in a lot of pain.
Wow.
So stuff like that's pretty common as well.
Can you share a memorable patient success story?
Oh, yeah. So I've seen a lot of really amazing things over the years. I'm doing this for 20 years. But probably one of the coolest was a younger woman who came in her 20s. And she had a lot of pain, like her neck and her upper back. She had been to see, her primary care. They'd done x-rays. They're like, nothing's wrong with you. Here's some muscle relaxants. She didn't like how they felt. Nothing was helping. They're like, well, we'll try some PT. They were trying to have her do some strengthening, but she couldn't move. She found her way into my office, and it was some adjustments are more memorable than others, but this one was, we still talk about, she's still a patient of mine. This was probably, I don't know, 7-8 years ago that she came into my office. But the amount of movement that her body needed was outstanding. And we did that adjustment and she was just like, I can't believe it. I haven't moved like this in so long. And that's what her body needed. And, we did a few adjustments. She felt so much better. And she still continues to come in and does maintenance. And, sometimes I maybe won't see her for a few months and then I'll see her a couple times in a month. But for her, she was like, wow, this changed her life. And I still remember that moment. Like I said, there's certain adjustments that I like, after I adjust the patient, I'm like, wow, that made me feel relaxed.
Can you look at someone and say you need an adjustment by maybe the way they have their shoulders or the way they're carrying themselves?
Sometimes, yeah. A high shoulder is a common one. And a lot of times that's postural. The hips as well. I've seen people who kind of, hike one hip up, or you can tell that their gait's a little bit off. So just watching someone walk, looking at kind of like that hump on the upper back, right? Everybody always talks about that little roundedness right here.
The lovely lady hump.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so that is actually just a posture alteration. It's something that, like you've kind of gotten rounder and rounder, and our body will accommodate to that, right? And so now you've kind of accumulated extra tissue up here. Like I said, these muscles are really tight, and it's allowing your body to move, number one, but then teaching it how to be able to maintain that. And that's where that strength piece comes in. So here's some exercises so you can strengthen and maintain that. So I can definitely tell a lot of times looking at someone like
is there like a corrective brace that can bring all that posture together?
There are devices out there. It's not something you'd want to wear all the time, right? And my opinion is always a brace is kind of like a crutch, right?
Sure.
It's going to help you right now. And a lot of the devices out there, though, they do actually get you into the proper position. And so it's now telling your brain, this is our new normal, but then you need to take it off and you have to strengthen. And a lot of the products will actually come with exercises, or if I have patients who are like, hey, I started wearing this, I'll show them some exercises so that they don't have to wear it forever. But it's like, hey, you know what? Maybe put that on for a couple of hours when you're typing. It's going to force you to kind of come up, because now we're telling our brain, hey, this is our posture. So then when you start doing the exercises, it's easier to maintain it.
My wife has a pillow, an ergonomic shaped pillow that she stuffs in her lower back to try to.
Yeah.
I don't like it. It doesn't fit me well.
Well, you know, and everybody's unique, right? And that goes back to the kind of looking at the body and everybody differently, right? And it's not cookie cutter. We're not anatomy textbooks. And so what works for one person isn't going to work for everybody. And that goes for, you know, beds, that goes for computer chairs, that goes for, you know, the type of chiropractic care you get, that goes for the type of shoes that you wear. So every body needs something a little bit different, and being able to kind of pick that apart is a really fun part of my job.
That's super cool. Yeah. Let's shift gears a little bit into the business side.
Okay.
What are some of the biggest challenges as a business owner that you face?
Yeah, this is something that, you know, when I started my practice, I had no experience as a business owner, and my parents were teachers, so I didn't grow up in a house where I knew the family business type of way of life. And so, but I guess for me, you know, when I started it, I was responsible only for myself. So I felt comfortable being able to take those kind of risks. And I worked a part-time job. I got a job at Lifetime Fitness. I worked as a personal trainer because I needed to pay the bills. And then I worked on building up my practice. And the biggest thing I did was just getting my face in front of people and talking to people who were already business owners. Hey, give me some tips, you know, like, you know, I've heard everything from you got to learn how to make money while you sleep, to make sure you have the right people in your corner when it comes to your finances, and, you know, having your CPA and things like that, to make sure that, you know, you don't have to worry about that stuff. So like I have all that stuff kind of, you know, I'm hands off, right? My accountant has me on my payroll service. So like I just plug in my employees' hours and away I go. I don't have to worry about it because I know my taxes are paid. And so finding the right people to help me in that sense has been really helpful.
Yeah.
And then the other part is navigating, you know, where do I want my business to be? What do I want my office space to look like? What kind of people do I want to surround myself with? You know, we all know that you want to surround yourself with people that are going to boost you, that are going to make you a better version of yourself. And so I feel just so blessed that I've found the people that I work with, that we all complement each other, that, you know, we build each other's businesses, you know, whether it's the people that are actually within my, you know, in my business, or other business owners that I've met who just, you know, we all just want to help each other succeed, and learning from other people is the absolute best way to figure it all out.
What, is there anything that you would have, knowing now what you know, you would have done different in the beginning?
You know, I definitely got a couple of those letters from the IRS because things weren't submitted at the exact right time for the taxes, or I had the money, but I didn't know I got moved to a monthly versus a quarterly depositor. So I learned a few tough lessons there. You know, I think it's funny, when I went to school, you know, I got my undergraduate degree in, you know, like the sciences, you know, just kind of thinking, well, I'm going to chiropractic school, so I'll get an undergraduate degree in the sciences, right? So my undergrad's in human biology. And I wish that I would have known, or had someone suggest to me, hey, why don't you get a business degree? Because really, it didn't matter what my undergraduate was. I could have gotten my prerequisites for chiropractic school as my, you know, additional classes that I needed. So that's probably like the biggest, you know, within my career, the biggest thing that I wish that I could have done differently. But it's not a regret because I didn't know, you know.
I think every financial advisor I've ever talked to says doctors are notoriously horrible with money.
Because we're not taught how to like manage. We're taught how to see patients.
And
right?
you're just cashing checks and breaking necks. And what do you do with it?
I had one class in like I think marketing, and one class in like, you know, like I don't even know if I had a financial or accounting class. I mean, it's like it just wasn't a part of my curriculum. And so yeah, I kind of was winging it a little bit. So I've told that to you know, to students, because I mentor a lot of students who are looking at either going to chiropractic school. I also have students that do rotations in my office for observational hours from the naturopathic school in Tempe that's close to my office. And I always suggest to them, hey, you know, you really need to dive into the business side of things. It's something that I wish I would have known. And so I like being able to share that with them.
Quick myth question. If one of my pet peeves is I don't like when someone cracks their knuckles.
Okay.
The sound, is that sound of a cracking knuckles or toes or anything like that, is that like the bones? What's happening there?
Yeah. So there are certain people that really don't like the sound, and there's some people who can't get enough TikTok videos that have the microphone right on it and they listen to it. So no, like your answer, short answer is you're not actually doing anything to manipulate the bone itself. What you're doing is you're pushing mobility into the joint. So where two bones come together, and there's a gas that builds up within that joint.
Oh.
And so when you gap that joint, you get a release of that gas. That's why you can do it. Like if I do this with my thumb and I can make a sound.
I heard it.
Right? But now I can't do it again. But in 15 minutes, if I go back to it, I can do it again because now the gas is built back.
Yeah.
So it's just, you're releasing just some of that pressure within the joint by immobilizing it and making sure that it's moving properly.
I have a pesky thumb that every once in a while I'll get us stuck in this position and then I have to force it down and it'll pop. And I'm like, God, come on, thumb. You're what separates me from monkeys here. Let's go. Let's do some rapid fire.
Okay.
Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Morning person or night owl?
Morning, definitely.
I would have guessed you as a morning person. What's your favorite way to stay healthy?
Oh, I'm a big vegetable eater. I love.
I've seen on social media I've got a garden.
I do. Gardening is my, that's my jam. I love it. It's my, like, kind of one thing that people don't know about me is I'm a big gardener, but I grow a lot of stuff. I like to make things from scratch as much as I can. But if you ever in my office around lunchtime, you'll see that I eat a salad for lunch pretty much every single day. But I try to really follow an 80-20 rule, right? I'm not going to be perfect. But you know, I'm not a sweets person. I know a lot of people are, and so, but I'm salty. So, like, put chips and salsa in front of me, and it's gonna be gone. But yeah. So I try to really keep my vegetables up. My hydration is really important to me. I'm always drinking water. I'm taking in electrolytes this time of year, and I move my body as much as I can. You know, I'm fortunate that I do have a physically active job, so I'm not sitting all day. But I try to move it as much as I can. If I can go for a walk over my lunch hour, I will. And you know, in my home, I'm very rarely sitting down.
I didn't even think about the physical aspect that you might have to go through working on someone else's body.
Mm-hmm.
I had a buddy who married a massage therapist, and I was like, bro, you must get massages all the time. And he asked me, would you want to go home and do your job to your wife? And I was like, no. What's your favorite vegetable to grow?
Oh, probably in the winter, I like to grow like greens. So lettuces grow really good here, but peppers are fun too. And there are lots of different varieties. So
Yeah, I like those. What's one book everyone should read besides Commercial Insurance Simplified?
you know, I've really gotten into, I don't have a lot of time to sit and read books right now. And a lot of the books I've read historically have been more like work related. But I've gotten really into listening to audiobooks and like listening to people's stories. So I think there's a lot of really good ones out there. If people are just learning about them, just like memoirs and things like that are really, really cool. There are some really great books out there that are about, you know, like the functional medicine world, you know, the nutrition piece that I'm a big part of. Probably not the most interesting for most people to read.
The layman.
But I would say like any of those books that are really great at kind of diving in on learning more about someone. It's really interesting. It gives you good perspective on their life.
What's one health tip someone should start today?
Ooh, probably a tie. Either the water, right? So starting your morning with 8 to 16 ounces of water, or number 2, finding that time to move your body. Those are the two easiest. It's the low-hanging fruit, right? It's something that people with the excuses can always find something they can do.
If someone is nervous about seeing a chiropractor, what would you tell them?
That's perfectly normal. It's something that I hear all the time. But, you know, making sure that, you know, finding out what the chiropractor that you're going to go see, like what type of practicing they do. And that's where, I mean, pretty much all of my patients come in to see me out of direct referral. Someone that has seen me has recommended my office to And, if you're unsure, call. Sometimes patients will call in and be like, hey, what type of adjustments do you do? And, my office manager, she knows, the right way to answer all those questions. But if patients are really just like, hey, I'm nervous, I have some questions, like I offer an ability, come in, let's chat for 10 minutes. Let's just see if it looks like the right fit. And if it's not, that's fine. But if it looks like, something that you'd like to do, then we'll get you scheduled.
Tell us where you can be found, plug the website, contact information, where your office is located.
Yeah. So again, Body Wise Chiropractic. I'm in Tempe. My office is right off of the 60 and Rural Road. I'm on the south side. There's a bunch of little medical offices in there. I've been there for 13 and a half years.
Wow.
And I do have some socials. So I'm Body Wise Chiropractic on Facebook and Body Wise Health AZ on the Instagram. I do not actively participate in TikTok, and I probably should. And I've had patients be like, get the little microphone and set it up. I'm not super active on my socials, I have to be honest. If you might get a glimpse of my garden, though. Or my sourdough bread.
I have seen the garden and the sourdough.
Yep.
That's very cool. Dr. Bobbie, I really appreciate you coming and hanging out in Casey's Corner and sharing your experience. I've learned a tremendous amount. Drink more water, stretch, and just do something today.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Watch the way you're sitting.
That's right.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Thank you very much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
If you'd like to be featured on Casey's Corner, please like, subscribe, share this video, check out the book, link in the description. Thanks very much. Have a great day.